Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special, and I do mean special, vacation edition of the Skewed and Reviewed Skewedcast. I am actually recording from the past, so I will be on vacation next week in British Columbia, coming off the boat, getting ready to dock and head back to Seattle. So we are recording the show for you because mainly I don't want to have to be trying to rush something in while we're coming from Vancouver back down to Washington. We got Michael, we got Justin. You can catch us online at sknr.net. You can catch us each week at canalcentral.com with our movie reviews and game reviews, mostly game and hardware, keyword skewed. And of course, let's not forget our magazine. We're going to have Borderlands 3 and Jedi Fallen Order on the cover of the next issue. It'll be out just after E3. And Michael and I will be there covering. We've already got some really nice interviews and meetings already set up, more coming. And of course, we've got my segment each week on BJ Shea's Geek Nation on KSWFM. You can go to that page and check it out, or you can check it out on our site, where, of course, we have all things movies, games, pop culture, TV, you name it, we cover it. And we're getting near convention season. We're going to be talking about Phoenix Fan Fusion in a little while. And that'll, of course, lead us into E3, which will lead us into San Diego Comic-Con, PAX West. But first, we thought we'd cover a few things. Justin, you wanted to tell us about the new Predator game that was announced recently.
Yeah, so I think this actually was announced at a Sony event this last week, and they showed off a number of things. They showed off a new trailer for the Final Fantasy VII remake, which I know a lot of people were looking forward to, like including myself. But I think the biggest surprise was a new Predator multiplayer game, which seemingly came out of nowhere. And it's really cool because I remember when we were playing Wildlands and they did that Predator event where you could go to a specific area of the map and it would kind of kick you into an event where you were being hunted by the Predator and you'd have to combat him. And being in that dense jungle and being hunted, it was absolutely exhilarating. And I remember at the time when we were playing it, I said, they absolutely need to make a game just like this. And lo and behold, it has happened. They're apparently, I don't know a lot about the studio making the game specifically, but it is a PlayStation 4 exclusive as far as I can tell, information wise, and it's being published by the new gaming wing of Fox Interactive, which
Fox
is
Next.
Yes, and I think that's also exciting because we didn't really know exactly what Fox Next was going to be, what kind of approach they were going to be taking towards gaming. Mm-hmm. And this sort of is the first sign of what's to come for Alien Predator games. I'm excited, in concept. Obviously, it's going to be a while before we see it in gameplay and get our hands on it. But in concept, it's absolutely exactly what I want from a Predator game. One player is the Predator, and you have a number of players playing together as Marines. And the Predator player gets to hunt the Marines. I mean, it's as simple as it gets, but I'm very excited. There were a lot of modes in Alien vs. Predator, Alien vs. Predator 2, and even Alien vs. Predator 3 that kind of toyed with this kind of concept. And me and the guys from Planet AVP, we very much liked that kind of game mode. So I'm very excited for this. I definitely want to see more, and I don't think we're gonna have to wait a whole long, because I think it comes out next year. So we'll probably see a little bit more later this year.
I am curious. It kind of reminds me of, at first I thought, okay, because when they show the trailer, it does say not actual gameplay. And so I thought, okay, is it like maybe a Left 4 Dead or World War Z in that it's a 4-person? But then, of course, that would mean hundreds of predators all over the place, and that's not going to be what happens. And it reminds me of Evolve, and I'm kind of wondering if that's the concept they're going by, is that you have a team of 4 people or whatever, and various people play them. Someone plays the predator, and it's basically, hunt or be hunted.
Now, the interesting thing is it's actually being developed by Ilphonic, who actually did Friday the 13th, the game.
Oh, that's right.
Which is what Gareth and I had opportunity to play. Kind of a very similar, I guess conceptually it's similar, right? You had one person who was randomly selected to be Jason, and then you had a whole bunch of campers trying to struggle to get off the map. So it'll be interesting to see if it's what kind of take it goes in that direction. I mean, the one thing about it is at least you're armed in this one. In the Friday 13th, it was a matter of finding a axe or a bat or
and
whatever.
All it did was stun him.
Right. So here you might actually have an opportunity to kill the predator if you can find him. So yeah, I like the idea that it might be something like an evolved type of gameplay where the characters, whoever is the predator, is picked at random from a group of 5, 6, 10, whatever they go with, and then the opportunity to hunt them. I like the presentation of it. I know it's not actual gameplay, but I like the presentation of it. I kind of like to take what the take they're making on it. And the Friday the 13th game, which turned out to be actually quite fun to play and fairly quick to pick up. So I'm hoping they kind of are in that same realm where it's easy to pick up. Probably we'll see it as maybe not a $60 game, but maybe we'll look out and it'd be a $30 game or a $40 game. And then obviously have an opportunity to play multiplayer with. So yeah, I'm excited to see what they turned it into.
I'm curious what we're going to see more of first, the new Alien shooter or this game. Who knows? E3's coming up and interesting time. So before we get to the next topics, I got a little information on Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, how, we've talked about how they're going to do the 4-hour windows and that sort of thing. And we had a little bit of interesting news come in the other day. They've started to do some, like they had one the other day of Abrams, Steven Spielberg, Kathleen Kennedy, head of Disney, going around and doing that. There's a great picture of them sitting on the Millennium Falcon. There was some video released of a 360 view of the interior of the Falcon, which is like dead on from the movie. You remember how we talked about 6 players and 200 and something working controls? Well, I found out how exactly that works. And it sounds hysterical. Now, when you go through the thing, you basically have a Yondu from Rebels and Clone War. They have a really fancy animatronic of him, and he basically is, what keeps you entertained while you're waiting your turn in line. But we've heard about how you build up a reputation, and that reputation will follow you as you come back on future visits. And if you really goof up, it can actually have characters and costumes come and interact with you throughout the thing. Well, so the first 2 people are pilots. Now, one person who pilots, the guy on the left, or the person on the left, can only handle turning left or right. The person on the right handles up, down, and activating hyperspace. Now, the next 2 seats are the gunners, and apparently they said that while you are free to hit any of the 200 and something buttons that are there, every one of them has a function. There is sometimes consequences for hitting the wrong thing and then not hitting the right thing. And they said what they're going to do is they're going to light up when you're supposed to hit them. So the people in the 2 middle chairs are the gunners, and their job is to keep the TIE fighters and the other ships off your hand. But of course, if the people up front are being idiots and banging into everything out there or not letting you shoot it, your ship starts taking damage. Now, you get enough damage, you can fail the mission or have consequences. That's where the 2 folks in the back seats come in. They're the engineers whose whole job is to work the buttons and to keep, oh God, shields are failing, engines are, and to basically work the systems to keep that ship flying. And I thought about it going, this is going to be hysterical because the first few flights, people are going to mash that thing up all over the place. And I'm like, wow, there's part of me going, I had a friend years ago who used to tell us, never go on a canoe trip with a significant other because they've seen more people get into fights and break up over canoe trips. And I thought about it and I said, God, can you imagine a husband and wife just, damn it, shoot him. I am shooting. Fly the ship straight. Well, I would fly, And then I thought about it going, 6 random strangers probably would work better than a family because I'm like, all right, Jen's here, my son's there, and then, no, I want to fly, I want to shoot, but it just sounds hysterical, and I'm like, that's going to be amazing, and I think that's going to really hold people together, especially until the Rise of the First Order one opens later this year. But when I heard that, I'm just like, oh God, they can only turn right and left, they can go upside down, and the poor gunners, they're going to be trying to shoot, and it's great because it sounds like it's designed to get you to go back and like, I can do this, and try to better your score. So look forward to that. That's coming up in just a couple of weeks. And also Knott's Berry Farm has got, of course, they're doing it just a couple days after we're in California while we're on the boat, but they're going to reopen the brand new Grizzly River Rapids that is having a very big makeover. Now, of course, it used to be Bigfoot Rapids, and what they're essentially doing now is they're putting in themes to it, characters similar to the way the log ride goes. So apparently there'll be like little interactive characters and animatronics along the way as you're zipping along in your tub, getting splashed. And of course, there'll be an appearance by Bigfoot himself or herself. Let's not be too discriminatory. And so I'm looking forward to seeing that because that's such a fun attraction, especially when it's hot outside. So that'll be coming soon to Knott's Berry Farm. So switching gears back. We'll discuss that later. I was going to say that there's a lot of new attractions. We'll probably do that after we get back because I have we could talk about the new stuff at SeaWorld and new stuff coming and all that, but that again closer to the D23 Expo, we'll bring that in. We got word recently that The Purge is going to get a fifth and very likely final film coming out in the summer of 2020. Now the TV series will continue at least through season 2, but the creator of the film series has said that he thought of a really crazy and wild way to wrap it all up. Now, for those that remember the last film in the continuity line, the last one was a prequel. I'm referring to the third Purge movie. Essentially, we had a new progressive reform politician elected into office who basically their first act was to abolish the Purge, which seemed to be hinting that there was some kind of potentially civil war, at the very least civil unrest erupting the moment it was done between the people who are glad it's over and the people who want it to continue. So we'll start with Michael. What do you think is going to happen, and what do you think?
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought they already had the final Purge, but apparently this is the new final Purge.
That was the first Purge, was the last one.
Well, right. The first Purge was the first Purge. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they wrap it up, because they've kind of done everything throughout the series. You know, they've got everything from how did it start to where did we end. So yeah, I'm curious if it's going to be an all-out battle to see if the Purge continues, and you have the big group of people who are doing the purging and those who are either attempting to stop the purgers or are just trying to protect themselves. I've always liked the series. I thought they've kind of kept it fresh, even though the first one obviously was, I think, one of the better ones. But even the last Purge, which was the first Purge, I thought they did a really good job with. And it'll be interesting to see how they can tie that also to the TV series and how everything is going together. So yeah, I'm not surprised. There's another one that's been a pretty successful franchise. So I'll be interested to see where they take it.
Yeah, they make them for a reasonable amount of money, and then they do make a very steady profit, especially overseas and domestically. So, Justin, do you have any comments on this?
So I've actually never seen any of the movies.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I know. So I don't have a lot of good comments about it, but it is always interesting to see like how a popular series has ended. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think on when it does finally come out.
I think it'll be interesting for you to see them. You probably can watch all 5 of them at the same time, because I remember there are people that it's kind of a running joke for those that are doom and gloomers that the first film came out and they're like, oh yeah, that's just some creepy sci-fi stuff. And then the second film came out and they were like, huh, yeah, I could kind of see this. And then by the time the third film came out, people were getting really uncomfortable, especially with the fourth film, because they were like, I could see this happening. This isn't such a far stretch from where 5 years ago it was like, oh, this is ridiculous, and now they're like, yeah, I could kind of. Now admittedly it's taken it to extreme levels, but I think that's how some of the best science fiction works, because they try to give you a dystopian future that kind of like 1984, you go, oh boy, that's terrible, but yet they always have just enough germs of truth in it where you go, huh.
Yeah, so, the Purge films, what I've found is when they're released, they tend to kind of take into current themes and popular current events, and they kind of obviously take an extreme twist on them. But I could see them kind of doing that with, it's always has kind of that political undertone to it, and then potentially bringing in some current events or more recent events to tie it into that last film. So yeah, they tend to kind of follow the same strategy of they make it extreme and yet they are also pulling in realistic events that have been ongoing and kind of making people feel uncomfortable. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with this one.
Okay. And our big topic for today, folks, is the big event coming up in the Arizona area, and that is Phoenix Fan Fusion. Big convention, recently had a name change, but it is continuing to grow. It is continuing to be one of the top 10 conventions in North America for in terms of population attendance, and that they're expecting over 80,000 people. And I believe this is my ninth show that I'll be attending, because I did the first one just a couple weeks after we came down to Arizona to set up the Southwest office. And I actually have 3 panels this year. We're going to be doing upcoming television news. We will be doing the movies of 2020 through 2022, and of course, the big upcoming video games and technology. And looks like we actually are going to have Justin here, who's only been, to my knowledge, you've only been to one of the years that we have had the show, because you're usually off doing some family stuff. Michael will be there. Genevieve will be there. We got a whole crew going on, so we have lots of videos going up. Now, we did have news this week that Ian Zierling will not be attending as planned, because apparently he got called back to do some additional filming on Swamp Thing. So that, of course, has taken priority, and we're not sure as of this recording if they are going to be putting anyone else in to fill his place. I mean, that traditionally has been the convention's policy, though, is that when one guest has to leave due to filming commitments or schedule conflicts, they usually do put someone else in their place. But, why don't we start, Michael, why don't you start us off? Why don't you name off some of the big names? And this, of course, is not even hitting at all of the authors and the comic book artists and stuff. I know my wife is very excited to see Diana Gambledon again, who does the Outlander series. She lives in the area, apparently, so she's been a regular fixture at the convention. Why don't you talk about some of the guests you're looking forward to, please? Yeah,
so this is my 5th or 6th year going, and there's always been a pretty good assortment of folks that are coming. So this year, John Barrowman is making another appearance. I know he's always a fan favorite.
Always good.
Yeah, I mean, he always entertains everybody. Always packs the house. So he's always a great addition when he comes to the Phoenix Fan Fusion. Jeff Goldblum's a big celebrity that'll be coming.
Yeah, that was an amazing get.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for him. I mean, I've always been a fan of, starting off with like The Fly and then into his Jurassic Park movies, Independence Day, Thor Ragnarok. He's always kind of kept himself fresh, and he always does, in my opinion, a really good job with his role. So I'm excited for him. Pee-wee himself is going to be here, Paul Rubens. That'll be he's always pretty interesting character, so I'll be kind of curious to how he does. Billy D. Williams, of course, from Star Wars fame, the Batman series from back in the 90s as well. Elijah Wood, and then, of course, there's going to be a huge group of the original Star Trek cast that will be coming as well, with George Takei, Nichelle Nichols, and Walter Koenig, I believe, is going to be there. So, correct. Again, that's just some of the major stars that are going to be appearing. There's plenty of others that I haven't named off. And again, with the authors, Michael Stackpole is always there because he's a local author. And we always have a really good opportunity to meet with the authors and the artists that are in town for the show. So all in all, it's a really fun event. I have a really good list of guest stars coming out this year. So I expect that it'll be a really well put together show.
Yep, and we'll get Justin's comments in a moment, but some of the other people they have are Summer Glau, and my wife loves to tell the story how we almost collided with each other in the lobby of the Hilton at Comic-Con, and she just cracked up and started laughing. Couldn't have been nicer. Ray Park, Darth Maul is obviously there. Robin Lord Taylor, who played the Penguin on Gotham, who was recently in John Wick 3. We mentioned Nichelle Nichols. This is apparently her, last she's basically wrapping up her convention appearances. You've got Nikolaj Coster-Waldau from Game of Thrones is going to be there. You have, it's just like, where do you stop? It's like one after another after another. I think we got Elijah Woods coming, and we've got people from Harry Potter. We've got people from the Power Rangers. We've got Daniel Kim from Star Trek Voyager. Just on and on and on and on. It does not end. And so, Justin, what is your take? What are you looking forward to?
Oh, like really all of it. I mean, there's like you guys have covered. There's going to be quite a few huge names there, so it's definitely going to be very exciting. A lot of comic book creators as well. It's comic book artists, comic book creators, so
voice actors.
Yes, voice actors. They just about every aspect of entertainment's there. So I think it's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, they have two of the Power Rangers. Matthew Lewis, who from Harry Potter fans, Neville Longbottom, Adam Savage from Mythbusters. Is going to be there, and like I said, this was interesting. I did not even see this one; it kind of slipped through the cracks. Frank Caliendo, the comedian, is going to be there. The guy who does was on Mad TV and does all the impressions and stuff like that. And I don't know if you've ever seen him do the John Madden impressions on the Fox pregame shows. That's awesome. A lot of, like I said, we talked about a lot of voice actors. There's a lot of cosplay going on. Tons of authors going on, and of course then you have some of the local groups and some of the other people that are doing stuff. So just really insane. And of course, if you're into stuff like that, tabletop gaming is also an option. There's of course the dealer room now. What we're going to do is they have the open house on Thursday, and that is the day after we get back from our trip. So we're going to go over there and do the open house, which for me, I just started doing that a couple of years ago, and it was actually, it's great because they have the dealer room open, they have the Hall of Heroes where you can get the props done, and for me, it's fantastic to be able to walk around that, take a look when it's not so crazy, get my photos and stuff, meet some of the people, because usually once the show starts for me on Saturday, I'm basically either at our table or I'm doing the panels, so I don't get a chance to walk around too much, too far from the table in the panel rooms doing the show. So that's always nice. And then, of course, this year we have, we have Friday as well in the mix, and they have a lot of entertainment in the evening. So I'm just hoping we don't have a fire alarm like last year, which goofed up one of the panels, but better safe than sorry. And of course, there's some really interesting and diverse guests. There's like people from RuPaul's Drag Race coming, and they're doing a show, I think, Saturday night. And there's, of course, live music, and they have the vehicles outside. So, it's great to be able to see conventions like this in our local area continue to grow and to continue to get top-notch talent. I mean, we haven't even scratched the surface of everyone. Catherine Tate, Chris Sarandon, on and on and on, and it's Garrett Wang, Star Trek Voyager, as I mentioned, his character Daniel Ensign Kim will be there, and it's just going to be a great time. And we still may have someone else mentioned because Ian's out, but and oh, by the way, I wanted to mention this one, Michael. I think you saw her at CinemaCon because I think she was the one getting one of the awards. Summer Helene, who's the executive vice president at Paramount.
Yep.
And that is a really interesting guest because, in the wake of the whole Disney-Fox merger, that's created an incredible powerhouse of a studio. And it's going to be very interesting to see how Paramount and Warner Brothers, and some of the other studios, Universal, attempt to combat this, essentially gigantic juggernaut. So I'm really, really interested in the guests that they have. And like you had mentioned, if you get a chance, see John Barrowman. I got a chance to catch him at San Diego Comic-Con, and he is just a bundle of energy. He is campy beyond belief, but he was telling stories about Arrow and Doctor Who and Torchwood, and he is just so animated, and the stuff he told, he had the audience in stitches, and he's just completely uncensored. He is who he is, and it's just like a laugh fest because you don't know what he's going to do or say next. And that was just some fantastic stuff. And so that's coming up May 23rd through 26th at the Phoenix Convention Center, and yeah, it's going to be insane coming back from vacation, and the very next day there we are getting everything ready. But it's kind of nice, hit the ground running, and then you can say, okay, break time until E3. So anything else, guys, that you wanted to make sure that we discussed before we wrap it up right now?
Another for me.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is going to do it for us. Thank you so much for tuning in, folks. And we will be back Sunday night. Gee, the next show that we do, this is kind of scary. The next show we do will be post Phoenix Fan Fusion. So we'll be recording it after I have finished all of my panels and all of my booth stuff and back to normal going, oh no. And there you go. But until then, folks, take care. And we will talk to you very, very soon. Have a safe one. Take care.